Welcome to the Heroic Voice. I am here on the 1st of November 2025 with Don Nguyen, a artist, entrepreneur, creator who's going to talk with us about all kinds of stuff that he's involved in. This is the Heroic Voice, where I talk to comic book creators and other interesting people on a variety of subjects. I am Dennis Maloney, publisher of the Heroic Multiverse, where we feature good girl and bad girl artwork, super babes, and all kinds of Silver Agey style stories.
Hi, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Don, it's a pleasure to have you. What do you want to talk about first?
We can talk about whatever. Obviously, we just both were at the Imperial Valley Entertainment Convention, so
We
I
were.
hope that went well. I know you guys left a little bit earlier than I did. I was straggling along. If you've ever been to a show with me before, most people know my setup is kind of crazy looking. And I was able to get a 12-foot table. So they gave us a lot of space for that show, which was really cool.
They did. They did. It was very generous of them. Um, Ruben was great. You know,
Yeah, Ruben's always wonderful. So shout out to Ruben and Galavera, his comic, and some of the stuff that he's been doing. Unfortunately, at the show, I heard our friend El Cartoon wasn't able to make it, so I hope he's doing well out there.
well, I hope so too. Our Black Enchantress was kind of the mascot for this show, although it didn't help that much in getting people to come to the table
Oh
and buy
no.
things. There's that. But you had a lot of stuff there. I saw.
Yeah, so I've been in over 20 Kickstarter campaigns, including my very own comic, Pablo the Gorilla, that funded back in 2019 on Kickstarter when not very many people knew who I was. And the variant cover was done by my friend Dustin Nguyen, so shout out to Dustin. And I'm working on number two right now. Things have been kind of crazy. It's essentially roughed out completely, so I got to get started on inks, and I'm almost done kind of setting up all the script and lettering for it. So once I get to inks colors, it'll be ready to go. So I'm hoping to get that done by the end of this year so that I'll have it ready to go for next year. And then in the meantime, we're just getting card sets out. So for those who don't know, I do sketch cards for Tops and for Upper Deck. So I've had the pleasure of working on properties like Marvel, DC Comics. I just finished a set for Batman Metal Universe is going to be dropping supposedly very soon in the middle of the month of November, but it's been delayed so many times that I'm just telling people look for it at the end of the year or beginning of next year. And then Star Wars is another property I've been really honored to be a part of, and then just recently dropped was SpongeBob. So yeah, always have stuff coming down the pipeline. Always have stuff out, but yeah, it's been a part of a ton of indie comics on Kickstarter. I've been honored to do covers and interiors on a bunch of anthologies that have been nominated for the Ringo Award, like Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, which is part of Orange Cone Production. So shout out to Travis Gibb and Jerome Gagnon. They're a fantastic group of creators that a lot of people in the indie scene know. I do a lot of stuff for Bloodline Comics, like my background, Carmilla Unbound. Um, I did the variant cover for the first book, which was a Clockwork Orange homage, and then for the second book, I'm on the regular cover, and then also working on Battle Grapple 2 right now, which is the other book that I supply art for. So yeah, just always got a ton of stuff happening. Always trying to get stuff done every year.
You're a very
Uh,
busy man.
I try to be. I hope everybody out there is too. I mean, you're doing your own thing, so you know how it is as an independent creator. We're always just, trying our best to chug along, to be involved, to do new things, and I try to rise to meet all the occasions that I'm presented with.
You should take a moment and tell people why they should be interested in your gorilla.
I think if you're a fan of independent comics, a fan of comic book stories like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hellboy, Tank Girl, The Crow, I try to wear all my influences on my sleeve, and I think I put a lot of that into the comic as well. And it's a super short comic. It's been reviewed, people love it, and the question is always when is number two coming out? And it's been a struggle. Obviously, we always are trying to put food on the table and get projects out there, and also just try to build an audience and gain recognition for what we do. But Pablo is my passion project, and I think it's a really fun comic. It's an homage to those, especially those like dime store kind of comics, or the pulp that you would just be able to pick right off of the shelf. And I think it really is an ode to those kind of comics from back in the day, where you just be able to walk into a drugstore or your local magazine stand and be able to pick up a comic and flip through it, or even your local comic book shop. And I think that to me is what the essence of the first issue is. And then the second issue is going to be delving into a little more of the backstory. So we'll get more of the expository material from the second issue.
I'm going to push you again. You
Mhm.
told us about the comic book. You did not tell us about the character.
Oh,
Why is the
I
gorilla
gotcha. So
interesting?
Pablo the gorilla is an albino cyborg gorilla that delivers pizza, and he just wants to live his life. But the government that created him, they have other plans for him, and he's being hunted by something a little more sinister from his past. So I think the cover, if you can see the cover behind me, offers a lot of clues as to what is happening in the main plot of the comic.
Okay, so an albino gorilla with a past who specializes in pizza delivery.
Yeah, he just wants to live a regular life.
Hmm. Does he put pineapple on the pizzas, or is he not responsible for the toppings?
I would say he's not responsible for it, but he does enjoy it.
Okay, all right. All right, Pablo the Gorilla, second issue coming soon.
Yes.
All right. And you mentioned a lot of stuff that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have any? Let's do this, okay? I'll ask you the question. How did you get into comics?
Oh, that's always a loaded question.
Is it?
Yeah, it depends on whether you mean as a fan or as a creator. As a fan, I discovered comics at a really early age. I've told some people this story before, but when I was a little kid, probably about 5 or 6, my mom was going to Heinlein Community College up in Seattle, Washington, and we lived in this area called Burien, which is like right around the airport area, around SeaTac. And she dropped me off at the kids section, and that's where I discovered floppies for the first time. And inside the floppy bin were, it was like a, a bunch of issues of Uncanny X-Men. So it was like that Chris Claremont, like John Byrne era of those comics. And then it was Walt Simonson's Thor. I remember Superman with John Byrne, a lot of John Byrne in that 80s era. And then I also discovered Orphan Annie. Orphan Annie was really popular when I was a kid. There was the musical, and they made the movie, the live action movie, and I didn't realize that it was a comic book. And
Strip.
so they had a whole collected compendium at the library, in addition to having bound and collected the original Detective Comics and having a compendium of Detective Comics. And that's where I discovered, I used to watch Batman 66. It was syndicated. You'd watch it on the weekends. And I didn't realize that these were all comics.
Hmm.
And to be able to sit down as like a little kid, just like on a rug in a library with like your legs sprawled out and just flip through these books and have so many more stories than just like the same ones that you would watch like in syndication, or like Superman was also like a huge thing for me as a kid with Christopher Reeve. So it just added more flavor and depth and nuance to these characters to be able to read comics. And that's when I fell in love with the medium of comics and with reading comics. I got into drawing comics more so in my teens. And I grew up in that era of where all the image founders were the most impactful. So there's a lot of like Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, a lot of the Marvel guys, and then some of the DC stuff was hitting at the same time. Like my initial introduction to Batman comics were always the fun detective comics, and then I started reading Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns, which became a lot more more political, a little grittier, and it became more of a social commentary. And that really opened up my eyes to the storytelling that was involved in Batman. So yeah, that late 80s, early 90s era of comics was what really got my juices flowing in terms of wanting to draw superhero characters and draw comic books and try to explore the medium. And then I fell out of it during college. And sometime in 2008, I want to say, I rediscovered my love for comics. I walked into a comic book shop, hadn't been to a shop for a really long time. I grew up, my family and I had moved to Culver City in the late 80s, and right down the street was this shop called Graffiti Comics, which became Comics Inc. and is now the Comic Bug out here
Yeah,
in LA.
I'm
And
familiar
it
with the
literally,
store. I
yeah,
used
it
to go
was,
there occasionally when I was in college.
yeah, it was literally down the street from me. And I would walk there. And so I walked in one day, and at the time I was working for the Rand Corporation, and on the shelf, it was a run of Civil War was happening at that time, and there were books on the shelf with art by Umberto Ramos, Chris Bachalo, and Scotty Young. Scotty Young was in that baby cover phase of his where that was really hot for him. And I just fell in love with their art and their storytelling, and it was along that time that I was like, I miss doing this a lot, and it really just got me delving back into my love of comics. And that's also around the time where I started drawing a lot more again and practicing. And at some point in time, my wife and my coworkers noticed that it seemed like this was what I wanted to be doing. And thankfully, my family was in a good enough position where my wife asked if I wanted to switch. And I kind of haven't looked back since. I've been creating comics since roughly around 2017-ish was when I started, I guess, doing it professionally.
How
But
did you break in?
I started by doing storyboards for friends who would have like independent films. So I got doing that professionally. So I became known as this guy who could do storyboards from his phone and then just Dropbox them to you. So I did that for some of my friends. And then I started getting involved in doing web comics with my friend Matt Jackson. So we had this blog called Spicy Brawn. And then because I started using a Galaxy Note 2 at that point, I also started doing a daily art blog. And then I started befriending creators. I had tried to, do my own comic, Pablo the Gorilla, try to introduce it as part of the Zuda imprint that DC Comics had started, but I didn't really know how to make comics. And I was just like drawing on backing boards essentially at that point. But I got to know the Timony brothers, Peter and Bobby, from doing that. Nicholas Doan was another Zuda creator, and they had always kind of been in the background for me and taught me some of the stuff that it took to make comics. And then I used some of the knowledge that the Timony brothers taught me to start doing a webcomic called Jupiter the Space Bug with my buddy Matt Jackson. And so that's kind of one of the initial forays into it. And then, my wife thought it'd be a good idea to go to comic book shows, not only to like do portfolio reviews, but also to just meet other creators
Mm-hmm.
and network. And I had never really thought about it. And funny enough, how I befriended Dustin Nguyen was I started off as a fan. I would like buy little sketches that he would have. And then he started seeing my artwork, and he was like, every time he would see me, he would ask about it. He's like, are you at this show? And it just got to the point where I was like, I want to hand this man something one day, just to show him that I actually have work. And so I got to a point where my buddy Andy Nordval and we had met at the Con Creator Connection panel at San Diego Comic Con one year. And he had a great idea that he had pitched me, but we had never had time to get to it. And then one year he just randomly asked if I was doing Inktober, and I had been doing Inktober, so some people knew me from that for a couple years already. And we decided to be the first team to take all 31 of Jake Parker's prompts and go beginning to end as a complete story. And that was actually my first self-published project that we did. It was called Siren Song. We did it in 2017, and then 2019 the book magically went #1 for a few days on Amazon. It was #1 on Amazon Kindle, top 100 in print, in fantasy and sci-fi illustration. And that was the first book I was ever able to hand to Dustin Nguyen. And that was kind of the impetus of like me doing something professionally and getting paid for it.
It's always good when you have some recognition like that. Just on our side, just in the last week, we had something like 5 or 6 of the top 20 downloaded books on drive-through comics, which
That's amazing.
could have kind of gratified. So
Yeah,
that was cool seeing that happen.
that
I
is
don't
very cool.
recall that ever happened
Congratulations.
before. But we've come out just in the last few months with several new projects, archive editions, some new books, and people have been waiting for it, I guess, for a while. We've
Mhm.
had a little downtime until just recently. So, but enough about me, right?
No, that's incredible. I mean, that's something I feel like we should all always take a moment to discuss, even if it's on your own show. Like I'm just honored that you guys have me as a part of that. And I feel like, as creators in independent comics, especially, it's always important to acknowledge the work that you do, because a lot of people, they walk past our tables all the time. And even
And
though,
they never stop and say hello.
yeah, they never stop and say hello. And we're people too. And I always tell people I have this fun game that I like to play at shows, which is like people will just walk by and I'll just say hi to them and I'll see how many people respond.
Yeah, I
And
do that.
part of that is understanding that there are people who have social anxieties and social awkwardness, and that's completely cool too. But it's always nice when somebody responds and asks you how you're doing. And I try to shout out people who are in awesome cosplays that I really like, or are wearing a shirt maybe that I like. And I think that's just, it's part of the business. It's part of the trade. But yeah, always take time to celebrate your achievements and what you do. And for you guys to have, well, you said 5 of 20 spots. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's so cool.
We should have T-shirts like exhibitors need love too. Something.
Yeah, you that's listen, that's your idea. You should totally run with it. I obviously, you've seen me when I go to shows. I wear t-shirts featuring my own artwork. Because one time I went with a Star Wars shirt and I forgot who it was. Um it was on a panel for marketing, and one of the panelists looked at me. He's like, do you do work for Star Wars? Which I didn't back then. Now I do, so it's a little bit different. But back then I did. He's like, you should wear your own artwork and
Yeah.
just advertise what you do. And really, that's something that I've tried to impart on younger creators getting into the business, is always be about your work. Exactly. You have the hat, and so one of those things that you'll see a lot of us out there is we got to rep our own stuff, or we rep our friend stuff. Like I'll wear a lightning strike shirt for my buddy Marcus Newsom every now and then, or any of my other friends. And if you ever see me with my crazy con lanyard, I have a ton of pins of different projects I've been a part of, and other fandoms that I'm in. So yeah, it's always important to shout out your friends and share their accomplishments as well.
Alrighty. Future projects. You've got your gorilla coming up. What else is on the drawing board for you? Some
So we're
long-term plans.
working on Pablo the Gorilla, Roughing Out Battle Grapple Rubble number 2. And then next on board is a Marvel project for Tops, as well as another Star Wars trading card set for Tops. And then Upper Deck, I just sent in my latest set for a DC set, and then Batman Metal Universe is supposedly dropping soon. So that's what's coming down the pipeline, and then we'll see what I have the honor of being a part of in the upcoming year as well. This year, past year was kind of hard for me. It was very light in terms of shows, so I spent more time working on projects, and I have an insane amount of projects that I've been a part of, especially in the trading card arena this year, in terms of doing sketch cards. So yeah, this year has been nuts. I think I'm in 3 or 4 Star Wars sets, a Marvel set that's supposed to be announced relatively soon.
Cool.
So yeah, stuff keeps happening, and I hope the fans keep enjoying the work and keep showing up and coming back. And I'm much like you and how the books are going for you guys. It's always great when people show up for us and support what we're doing. And
Let's let's sidestep a minute here.
yeah.
Social media.
Mhm.
You want people to follow you. How can they do that?
I am at Winning It. So it's the most common Vietnamese last name, which is Win or Win. It's Nguyen. Add an INGIT to that, and that's me on all social media platforms. The name is trademarked. And yeah, that's how you can find me. And if you're watching this, it's right there in the background.
There it is. Yeah. It's a pun.
Yes, it's a pun. It's probably the closest to an anglicized pronunciation of my last name. And I just thought it was funny. And it was around the time that Charlie Sheen's Winning was really kind of memeified at that point. I just thought it'd be funny to add to it and make it Winning it.
Yeah, the English ear can't hear the subtlety in that
Yeah.
first sound, in the Vietnamese.
Yeah, so there's there's that slight inflection because Vietnamese I feel like is based on like certain up and down inflections, and you just have to have an ear for it. I listened to my Nigerian friend will say words to me, and then he'll say different things, and it's hard for me to understand that intonation. So I totally get where it comes from. But learning languages is always really cool, and I like picking up words here and there from different languages. So but yeah, if anybody wants to try saying it correctly, you are more than welcome to. It is pronounced when you say it in Vietnamese. I would introduce myself as Nguyen Hoan Don, which is last name first, middle name, and then first name, as opposed to in English, which I would say Don Juan Nguyen. Um,
Well, alrighty. Any cogent advice that you might like to give to up and coming creators?
um, to up and coming creators, I think it's always great to have as positive energy as you can. And also, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was to be as helpful as possible. If you're seeing somebody struggling or if you see somebody needs help, just lend a hand. I think that's something that a lot of us, time and time again, will need in life as well as can offer people. We have a superhuman power out there. I think it's the ability to help somebody. And if you can do that, then I think you're on the right road. And then in terms of getting into comics, I think we all know what the secret to breaking in is just to start making comics.
Yes,
Make as many
work at
comics
it.
as you can. Doesn't matter if they're bad, just make them and put them out in the world.
Hmm. Don, thank you for being here. I want to encourage people to follow you on social media. You've got some really good projects coming up. I also want to encourage people, if they like this, to hit the like button, right? Share and subscribe to the Heroic Voice. It's the only way we can grow this channel. Definitely share it because we need more people to find out about it. Don, I hope we'll have you back sometime
Dennis, I
because,
appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure and an honor to be on the show as well as to be your and David's neighbor at the convention. And I hope to see you guys soon in the coming year.
oh, do you have any more conventions coming up that people should be aware of?
Oh, yeah, I will be at Don Con, which is happening November 8th at the Comic Bug. It's essentially my friend Don Walker does an event where he tries to bring as many comic book Dons in as possible. So this year it'll just be Don Borgmeyer, who's known also as Don Dada, Yorvit online, Don Walker, and myself. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Don Schmidt or Don Ho as a part of that, but that'll be November 8th at the Comic Bug, and then at the end of November, from November 28th to the 30th, I'll be a guest at Fan Expo San Francisco. So fans can come catch me there, pick up any of my independent comics that I still have on hand, as well as I'll have stock of some trading card sets such as Topps Chrome SpongeBob 25th Anniversary. I'll be bringing my box of Marvel Anime Volume 1, which is super rare, WandaVision, Midnight Suns, and some Star Wars stuff as well, Star Wars Mayo and Chrome Galaxy 2024.
Great, Don. Thank you again. Hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. I'm so sorry I was late today. I appreciate you waiting
That's
around for
okay.
me for
This
a
is
little bit.
this is recorded. It's going to be edited,
Yeah.
and you'll get a chance to see it before we take it live on YouTube.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me once again. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. And if I don't catch you anytime sooner, have a wonderful holiday and New Year upcoming. May it bring you great fortune and prosperity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.